Hello everybody, this is Freunde here, and welcome to a video that I did not expect to make this week. However, NASCAR has come out with the 2021 schedule finally. Apparently we were supposed to get the schedule back in April, but then of course a bunch of things happened, so we are now getting the full schedule at the very end of the month of September. Yeah, so I am aware that there have been some leaks of the schedule previously. There's been a bunch of details and stuff and things and about the schedule. And last night there was actually a proposal of the schedule that was on the moresport.com. However, I decided to wait till today to make this video because now we have the full-fledged schedule straight from NASCAR themselves. This is going to be the 2021 schedule. No, none of this proposal stuff. The actual thing. And I know some have said that this schedule might be subject to change due to something that's going on in this world. However, I think that whatever is going on in this world right now, you probably know what I'm talking about, is probably going to be over by the end of November. So we shouldn't really have to worry about any postponements going into 2021. So 2021 should be a pretty good year for NASCAR, and we'll be able to live out this very exciting schedule. So without further ado, let's get to the schedule itself and talk about it. So I'm going to start off by going over the schedule itself, and then I'll talk about some of the highlights of the schedule. So starting as per usual, we have the Daytona International Speed with a Daytona 500, no question there. And already with a schedule change, the second race of the season is the Homestead Miami Speedway. Now what's interesting about this is I actually did this in the Skittles Cup Series season in the 2018-19 season, which is my own series. So NASCAR doing some interesting things and maybe even taking some notes from my series. This is a good move because I actually quite like that they're doing 2 races in a row in the state of Florida. And Homestead is honestly a really good follow-up race to the biggest race in the calendar. In fact, I think they should actually give Homestead Miami Speedway 2 dates, where the first date is the second race of the season, and the second date is, of course, the season finale. Of course, they don't have to do that straight away. You know, we can see if Phoenix is any good as a finale, and if it sucks, then we'll just go back to Homestead, because, honestly, I think Homestead is a better finale than Phoenix. Moving on, we have the usual West Coast swing. We have All Club, Las Vegas, and Phoenix. Phoenix is going to be race number 5 of the season now, so that's interesting. I mean, it doesn't really change much. It's just the same West Coast swing, which I have no problem with. Then we go to Atlanta, which was initially going to be planned on the 2020 schedule before that to get revised. Then we're going to Bristol, which is cool. And actually, I just remember now, this is going to be the Bristol Dirt Race. That is right. In 2021, there is going to be a cup race on a dirt track. Kind of. It's going to be Bristol, but it's going to be turned into a dirt track. Now, I honestly do not understand why there is so much backlash to the Bristol dirt race. You know, there's slowly people saying, they shouldn't race NASCAR Cup cars on dirt. Or, if people want to watch dirt racing, they should just watch the World of Outlaws series. It's like, come on, guys. This is proof that NASCAR fans cannot make up their minds, because I remember not too long ago, NASCAR fans were begging them to add a dirt race, and we finally get a dirt race, and suddenly, this is now suddenly a terrible idea, and this is just... Oh, NASCAR fans, they're just... Some of them are just the dumbest people on the planet, honestly, but anyway. So, my personal opinion, though, I think this is a really good idea. I am all for NASCAR turning Bristol into a dirt track and having the Cup Series race on this track. That being said, however, for this event to be a success, NASCAR is going to have to develop a package. I assume they're going to be running the Xfinity on the dirt Bristol as well, and maybe even the Truck Series. I'm not so sure about the trucks. Maybe, possibly, we're not sure about that yet. If they do, however, for all 3 series, they're going to have to develop a dirt package for all 3 series, and they have to do it really well to avoid this weekend being an absolute crash fest. But if NASCAR are able to make up a really good dirt package, this could be one of the greatest weekends in NASCAR in years. And this is just a part of NASCAR getting back in touch with the roots. I mean, come on, back in the good old days of NASCAR, well, I said the good old days of NASCAR, back in the early days of NASCAR, the vast majority of the races on the schedule were dirt race. So this is NASCAR getting back into touch in their roots, and this can only be the start of even more dirt races in the future. So if this event, if this event is successful, like the Charlotte Roval race, this could be the sign of more dirt races to come in the future. I hope this weekend is a success, and I think that if NASCAR can pull off, it will be. So I am very much looking forward to this weekend. Yes, sir. So next up we have Martinsville Speedway, which I assume is going to be the night race. The Martinsville night race was actually a bit of a snoozer this year, so I'm hoping that NASCAR can improve the short track package, and so next year's Martinsville night race is actually a good one. Next up we have Richmond, which is the same. Talladega, which is the... My mouse wheel is not picking up for some reason. Anyway, so next up we have Richmond, which is the same. Talladega, Kansas. Darlington, yes, that's right. Darlington is now getting a second date in the month of May. I'm not really sure what the thinking behind this is, giving Darlington a second date. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm just wondering why are they doing it. I mean, there was never really any demand for them to have a second Darlington race, so I mean, I won't complain, because now we're gonna have one Darlington race, which is just a race, and then we're gonna have the throwback weekend, which is which is one of the crown jewels of NASCAR. I don't know, it just doesn't make much sense to me. We go to Darlington twice in 1 year, but only one of the events is a crown jewel and the other one is just a regular race. Again, I don't get what's the thinking behind giving Darlington a spring date. I feel like this might die out like the Bristol spring race, unless they're able to make this into a special race in itself. Otherwise, this might just be temporary. This might only be around for a couple years, and then they'll just go back to having Darlington just have one day, which would be honestly, all Darlington needs is that one day, because it's a crown jewel on the schedule. That's all they need. So, again, I'm not opposed to Darlington getting a second date, but I feel like the spring date might die out pretty quickly. So, this might be a placeholder for when they eventually replace it with a different track. Whatever that may be. So next up we have Dover. It's Dover. Nothing said there. Circuit of the Americas. Now this is a brand new track onto the schedule. This is a biggie. So, now, I'm pretty skeptical for this race, Circuit of the Americas, because my main problem with Circuit of the Americas is the circuit itself. It's not a good one, which is no surprise, because keep in mind, this track was initially designed for Formula 1 by Herman Tilke, a track designer that nobody really likes, because, man, he's designed some pretty bad tracks in the past. Yas Marina and Sochi are highlights of that. And Circuit of the Americas isn't honestly that good of a track either. I mean, yeah, there are some bits that are kind of good, like the Road to Turn 1 is kind of interesting, the S's are nice, but the rest of it is kind of cruddy. Like, you have these Mickey Mouse sections, you've got these stupid hairpins, so, I don't know, this race might be an absolute banger in the first couple of years, but after a while, it's probably going to just die out, so, I honestly don't see this event lasting very long on the calendar, unless, maybe, with the Generation 7 car, might turn the second to a banger, but this track is just not that good for any series at all. Like, I didn't even watch the IndyCar race at this track last year, but I hear that race wasn't very good, and I don't think any of the Formula 1 race this track hasn't been very good either, and this track also hosts the WEC series as well, which I haven't even seen a WEC race, but that's an endurance series, so you expect that to be a bit boring, but I don't know, Cody just doesn't have a very good track record, so I don't see this event lasting very long unless it's stock cars turn out to be a good thing for a Herman Tilke track. My hopes aren't very high, but I will watch nonetheless just to see what happens. So next up, you have the Coke 600, nothing there. Sonoma's back. That being said, Sonoma, usually near the end of June, however now it's at the beginning of June, which doesn't really change much. Sonoma will be Sonoma. It's a good track. Looking for that one. And now we come to the All-Star race. Now, the All-Star race looks like it's moved. Like, the All-Star race has been in May for the longest time, but now it's moved to June for this year. And it's going to be at Texas. So, Texas Motor Speedway. This track has been pretty bad in recent years. In fact, this track has really sucked ever since the reconfiguration. So, thank you, Eddie Gossage, for ruining Texas for absolutely no reason. Texas was just fine, and then you had to go and ruin it. Thank you so much. Honestly, Unless they do something interesting with this event, like maybe races on the Texas dirt track, or race on the Texas Roval, or just something that isn't the oval, this might be one of the worst all-star races ever. I'm sorry, but unless they do something about Texas Motor Speedway, this event is gonna suck. So, here's hoping that they race in Texas Roval, or just do something with the track to make it interesting. Otherwise, this event is just gonna be an absolute flop. I'm sorry. Next up, we have Nashville, a track that has been announced for quite a while now. I am looking forward to this race as much as the next guy. Should be a goodie, especially considering that we're racing on a super speedway track, which is on concrete. So this event might be an interesting one. And it might be even more interesting if they run the big, more small blade package to the track. I'm not really too sure. I'm kind of hoping they go with the big, more small blade package just to see what happens, rather than the anti big, more small blade package, which isn't even that good of a package in itself. So, yeah, we'll see how this race goes. And next up, we have the Pocono doubleheader. Honestly, the Pocono doubleheader this year wasn't really that good, so it's gonna be interesting how this goes again for next year. They really should just cut the Pocono weekend down to just one race, but I guess just to see. I guess this is really just gonna. I guess this is really just gonna be to see what the doubleheader Pocono weekend thingamajiggy will be like under normal circumstances. They might actually keep this event for a couple more years and then just drop it to just one Pocono race a year, which honestly I'd be fine with just one race a year. But 2 races a year, especially in one weekend, that's my thoughts on that. But then we come to the new 4th of July tradition. I like how for only 1 year, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway hosts the 4th of July race, and that race is boring. However, we are now going to Road America. That is right. You know, this honestly makes a lot of sense because, for one thing, this track is called Road America. Like, it has the word America in the name, and this happens to be the July 4th weekend. And I just realized the day is even on July 4th. So this is going to be quite the patriotic race. So we're racing at Road America. And this is actually going to be a new track for the Cup Series because, of course, Road America has been around for the Xfinity Series for a while. However, this is going to be the first time that we've ever seen a Cup race on this track. Now, providing that the aero package is a good one, this race could be a banger. A lot of people are saying this race might be a bit of a snoozer, but honestly, I think if NASCAR can just come up with the right aero package, this could be a good race. Personally, I still prefer the 4th of July weekend to be at the Daytona International Speedway, you know, like it has been for several years, but if this event turns out to be a good one, I might just accept this as the new 4th of July tradition that will be around for many years to come. We'll have to see what happens. So so Road America now followed up by Atlanta Motor Speedway. Yeah, that is right. Atlanta is getting a second date. Now, they actually revealed a reason as to why Atlanta is going to be getting a second date. Apparently, they want to give Atlanta 2 dates. This way, they can build this like big complex, this big entertainment complex near the track, or I say that right next to the track. So this way, fans can have some entertainment for over the weekend of the races. You know, basically to give you a reason to come back to Atlanta for 2 times a year. Now, Atlanta itself hasn't been the best racetrack in recent years. I'm not sure if a repave will do it justice. That being said, however, Atlanta could become a good track right off the bat with the Generation 7 car. Like, I feel like, that, you know, for 2021, since they're going to be running the Generation 6 car again, both races might be boring races. However, in 2022, if they keep the 2 dates, it could be a good one with the Generation 7 car. So we'll have to see how that goes. Moving on, we're going to New Hampshire once again. Nothing really to say there. And now we got two road courses in a row, which is quite interesting. We've got Watkins Glen, which is coming back. Watkins Glen is a good racetrack, and I hope it stays in the NASCAR schedule forever. And funnily enough, we have the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. Finally! I'm so happy for this because the novelty of the Brickyard 400 has honestly been dead since 2008. Like, after that absolute farce of a race that was 2008 Brickyard 400, this event has really just been dying. Like, you know, like, I can understand the novelty of the Brickyard 400 when it initially started, but it's just ever since 2008, this event has just been dying a slow and painful death. And with that in mind, since they're gonna be using the Generation 6 car for one more year, I am so happy that they are running the Cup Series on the road course at Indianapolis, and this should be a good race because the Xfinity Series race on the Indianapolis road course this year was a really good race, and I think that the Cup Series on the Indianapolis road course will be just as good of a race and maybe even better. With that in mind, I hope that they use the Big More Small Blade package for this race as well. In fact, I hope they actually use the Big More Small Blade package at all the road courses, because while the Big More Small Blade package sucks at most tracks, it's actually a pretty good package for road courses. So I think that the Indianapolis road course will be a really good race. And on top of all that, it's once again we are going to be seeing a NASCAR IndyCar crossover. So I'm calling it right now. Jimmy Johnson is gonna run both the IndyCar races at Indianapolis and the Cup race as well. I'm calling it right now. Jimmy Johnson will do double duty in that weekend. It makes perfect sense. I can honestly see it happening. So we're actually coming pretty close to the end of the postseason, regular season. Next up we're going to Michigan, which is now down to one date. I am so glad that Michigan is losing a date, because Michigan has been a pretty boring track for quite a lot of years actually. Like, honestly, I think the last time that Michigan produced a good race was 2014. Ever since, the races here have just been pretty boring. So I'm honestly glad that Michigan is only getting one day, and honestly the track itself, it just feels just soulless when it comes to NASCAR. So I'm glad that Michigan is only getting one day. That's all it needs. And finally, we are ending off the regular season at the Daytona International Speedway, which, Daytona as the cutoff race, I still don't know how I feel about this. I mean, it wasn't that bad of a race, well, the race itself was good, and it didn't really shake up the championship that much this year. So I guess we'll have to see how it does for the next couple of years, but honestly, if it doesn't work, they should honestly just move this race back to the 4th of July weekend or something. I know I said that the Road America race could be good, but I don't know. I mean, if Daytona continues to be a good race for the cutoff race to the playoffs, I guess I could accept its existence. But we'll have to just wait and see, honestly. And on that note, we now have the playoffs, which is just exactly the same as this year. So we have Darlington, Richmond, Bristol, Vegas, Dega, Charlotte, Roval, Texas, Kansas, Martinsville, and Phoenix. I have no problem with this schedule, to be honest. I think it might need some tweaks here and there in the next couple years. Like, for example, Texas is still there, so maybe you want to move Texas to somewhere else on the schedule, or as in the second date. Perhaps do something about Las Vegas as well. Other than that, though, there's actually a pretty good playoff schedule. And honestly, besides a couple races in there, I'm pretty happy with the way that it is now. All they need to do is just change the playoff format. I know I've been saying that they should just get rid of the playoffs altogether. And to be honest, I would have no problem if NASCAR would just get rid of the playoffs altogether. But on that note, if NASCAR absolutely wants to keep the playoffs, they should at least change it so the champion is at least legitimate, because it is still so stupid to this day that one race decides the season champion. I'm dead serious. It's such a dumb format. Please, NASCAR, change the format so at the very minimum one race doesn't decide the season champion. Just gonna throw it out there. So now that we've gone over the schedule, I guess now we're going to go into one last of the highlights. I pretty much covered pretty much all of the highlights to this schedule except for a couple, and that is the removal of Chicagoland and Kentucky. Now, my opinion on this is pretty much the same as most other people's. Good riddance to Kentucky, never really produced a good race. However, I am kind of sad to see Chicagoland go, because Chicagoland's actually been a good track in the past couple years, as in 2018, 2019, with the home of the slide job, and also the home of Alex Bowman-Ging's first win in the Cup Series. So, I am kind of sad to see Chicagoland go. I do think that Chicagoland could come back in the future, but I guess things aren't going very well at that racetrack right now, though, so I can understand why NASCAR is removing the schedule for this season. But that being said, I do hope that Chicagoland can recover itself and we can see them come back to this track in the future. Maybe it's 2022, 2023, I'm not really too sure. As for Kentucky, good riddance. Just good riddance. Kentucky, I don't know how the track's on the schedule for so long. I don't think it produced a single good race, honestly. It makes total... By the way, it's just so ironic how the best moment to come out of Kentucky Speedway came in the final moments of the final race. The 2020 race where Cole Custer makes it 4 wide for the lead and gets his first career NASCAR Cup Series win. So with all that being said, this schedule is one of the best in a long time. I really think that NASCAR hit almost a home run with the schedule. I guess there are still small little faults here and there with the schedule, but overall, this is still a brand new schedule. We're gonna have to see how it goes and come to our final conclusions when this season comes in. And honestly, I actually hope that this schedule doesn't change that much for the 2022 season, because it's gonna be just as interesting to see how the schedule goes with the Generation 7 car. Yeah, I really think that NASCAR from here on out should change the schedule according to how it goes with the Generation 7 car. That's, of course, 2021 is going to be the final season with the Generation 6 cars, so I kind of hope that the schedule doesn't change that much going to 2022, like I just said. Overall, I am very happy with the schedule, and another thing that's worth mentioning is that this is the most diverse NASCAR schedule in a long, long time, and that is exactly what I'm looking for in any racing schedule. Diversity. I want to see things get mixed up. I want to see all these different racetracks come together to make up a full season of the biggest racing series in the United States. I guess to give you guys a bit of a rating on this schedule, I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. I can't really explain it into words how I would improve the schedule, but I guess if anyone asks, I might just write out a comment saying how I would improve the schedule, but otherwise, the schedule is almost a 10 out of 10, so that's why I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10. And honestly, this schedule might even become a 10 out of 10 for me, depending on how good this season is. I mean, to be fair, there's still going to be some bore fest. I'm honestly considering skipping out on watching the Michigan weekend and a couple other boring races on the schedule, but that being said, however, NASCAR has still made a very good schedule, and I will make sure to tune into as many of these races as I possibly can. So with all of that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in whatever I make next. Good one.